Talk about it with Franjez. Today we have two special guests. A screenwriter, director, and educator with over 2 decades in film and television, known for projects like Fracture and Mad Money. Today's guest is Glenn Gers. And we're also
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for being here. We're also accompanied by returning guest co-host Michael Muqattash.
Hello.
Glenn, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you guys? You okay with the upcoming storm? I think it's going to snow a lot there.
Yeah, we're used to it. Where are you located right now?
I'm in Los Angeles now, but the first 38 years of my life, I was born and bred in New York.
Nice. What part of New York?
Yeah.
I was born in Brooklyn, but we moved when I was 5. I grew up on the Upper West Side near Lincoln Center, and then for 14 years after college, I was in the East Village.
Nice, very nice. How's LA right now? The weather?
It's rainy, but we could use it. It's good.
Rain is good.
Yeah. We've got some floods, but LA is not used to rain. Everyone kind of panics, and I'm like, in New York, this would be nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you always need rain. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing good. Thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm excited for this. I'm still in my Christmas spirit. Christmas was just yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, happy holidays to you. Happy Hanukkah. Happy coming New
And
Year.
to you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into your childhood. What were you into as a kid? What was childhood like in Brooklyn?
I was a very withdrawn, frightened kid. I loved books and movies and theater and radio plays and anything I could do, painting, anything artistic that would escape from real life, because real life was scary.
In Brooklyn in those days,
and
I bet.
and I found it. So yeah, I loved books. I love movies. I love plays. And I just sometime, I guess in middle childhood, I suddenly thought I actually don't just want to take it in. I want to make it. And started to learn how to make Super 8 movies, silent films, because that's all you could do in those days. So I tried to learn everything I could about silent movies when I was a teenager, and I made some for a while. And then I got frustrated by that because they couldn't have anyone talk. And so I started working on school plays, theater, and did plays in college, and then got out, went to live in New York in Manhattan, and decided to try and write screenplays.
Let's stick to your childhood a little bit. You said you were you were making films. What camera were you using?
I was using a little Yashica. It's a home movie camera. A Yashica Super 8. They had cartridges. You would put the film in, and I had gone to a kind of hippie school. It was called the Bank Street School, and now it's part of Columbia University. But at the time it was down in Greenwich Village, and it was a very hippie school. But they taught us things like how to make movies. They showed us how to use a camera, how to splice, how to and so starting in like around 7th grade or something, I was trying to make movies.
Nice. Tell me about that camera. I started filmmaking when I was very young too, but I was using a camcorder with the VHS tape in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested in that camera.
Well, that's the thing. I wished I would have done anything for sync sound, but this was in the late 1960s, early 1970s, and they just didn't have it. I remember when the first camcorders came out, I was like, oh my God, you can make a movie with this. Yeah.
Tell me about that camera. I'm interested.
By the time, I'm sorry?
Tell me about the camera, like the film. How is it stored, and were you able to edit it?
It was in you would buy it. It was just it was they made it for home movies. It was consumer grade, so it was just they would sell you a cartridge, a big black plastic cartridge about this big, and it fit into the camera. So all the film was preloaded into the cartridge. You shot, it had about 5 minutes worth of film on it. And then you took it to the local photo store and they developed it and they gave you back a roll of print film.
Really? And
And
how'd
it
you
was
how'd you
super.
play it?
I had a little Super 8 projector that my folks got with green stamps, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I started to try, like I said, I tried to study silent films, like learn how to do, just like basic storytelling, what a shot was, all that kind of stuff. And I would, play a record or something while I was, when I was showing it, projecting it to give it a little sound, a little music. Yeah. So I eventually got to where I would cut together about 4 reels worth. So the longest movie I made was about 20 minutes.
Wow.
And that was me and my high school buddies. I made a film. I was very ambitious, considering. I did a story about a thief who breaks into a laboratory and accidentally steals a nuclear weapon, which luckily for the movie was only that big, and and a police detective, is chasing him, and the entire movie was called Chase, and it was just running around New York City. These two guys, one of them trying to catch the other because he had a nuclear bomb in his pocket.
That's amazing. Do you still have it?
No, it fell apart. The splices didn't hold. After the thing is, this is one of those things that you don't realize. The technology is just going to change, and so, there's the splices just didn't hold. They weren't made. They were plastic. They were essentially plastic tape splices, and they just didn't last.
Wow, that's amazing. So you transitioned in school to plays from that.
Right.
And what was your role in the plays? You were just acting at the moment?
I was writing them. I acted in a couple. The teachers were the directors, which was good because I didn't know anything about directing. I thought I did, but I didn't, and they explained to me how much I didn't know. So yeah, I wrote some one-act plays when I was a senior, and I performed in them. And then when I went to college, I wrote. I didn't do much acting, but I did a lot of writing, and started to direct my own plays there.
Nice, very nice. So college comes, and what do you go to college for? I have here, it was Yale, right?
It was Yale. Back in the 1970s, they were taking far lower grades than they are now. I was very good at English and very bad at math. But at the time, they were okay with that. Now there's no way I would get in now. So I went for creative writing because it was listed as among the majors. And when I got there, they explained that they didn't actually have a major like that. You had to apply for a special divisional permission thing, which I couldn't get. So I just ended up becoming an English major, which was good because I really didn't know that much about English. I thought I did. I mean, I read a lot of detective stories and stuff, but I got a good English education. And also, this was, like I said, this was in the late 1970s or early 1980s. So it wasn't actually that easy to watch movies. An old movie, if it didn't come on TV, it was almost impossible to find. But at college, they had film societies, they called them, sort of film clubs, and they would show a different movie every night in the dining hall. They would just put up a screen and a projector, and they would show a movie, and that was kind of my real education. I was spending a lot, like every night, I was going to the movies, and trying to just learn as much as I could about that, because they didn't invent VCRs until shortly after I graduated. That was a revolution.
I bet. And kids these days don't even know what it is.
I tried to explain, what was that? A VHS tape to my son. My son's, one of them's 9, the other one's 7. And he looked at me like I was from another planet. And I'm born in 82, not that far back, but we got the best of everything. We caught computers when we were in like 7th or 8th grade, I think. My brother didn't. He was a few years older than me. So he never had computers growing up. in high school.
wild.
Yeah, no, calculators were a big deal when I was in school. That was like, oh wow, there's this machine that can do math for you.
Wow. The early stages of
But it's
AI right
actually
there.
been really interesting for me to see. Like, I remember before VHS, and now there's after VHS. Like, an entire technology came and went in my lifetime. Which, I mean, my lifetime is long, but still, it reminds me now as I see things coming in that they're likely to cycle out pretty fast too, and that's something that makes me a little nervous. Like, I have written documents that I did on early computers, on early Mac computers, and they're not accessible anymore because the systems were upgraded so many times that the old software by which you wrote and read when they started with computers is no longer. You have to find an old computer and put the file into that and then have it translated. So I've actually gotten very cautious about, if you're working in any technology, try to save copies in forms that you can control, because the technology comes and goes with businesses. Businesses don't really care. In fact, they'd rather that you buy a whole new system and replace all your movies and everything. So VHS is sort of a good warning to all of us.
Absolutely. They say in a few years there'll be no more cell phones. It'll be like glasses or maybe some other type of technology.
Yeah, or stuff that's like planted right in your head.
Yeah.
Unnerving, but
Yeah, it's coming. So when that technology comes, the cell phones, apps will be obsolete. It's gonna be the same situation. You're right. So let's get back to college. I have here English honors. You actually graduated with honors.
yeah, that's just because it was reading. The homework was reading. If the homework was anything else, I was going to fail.
But writing was always your thing. That's great.
Yeah. There were some requirements. Once again, things were much easier then. There was no math required and there was no foreign language required. Now they are in most colleges, but certainly at Yale. And if I had to take a language or a math class in college, they would have thrown me right out.
When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
When I was a really little kid, I wanted to be either the Hardy Boys or James Bond, somebody like that.
So
I wanted to be a fictional character.
Oh, the character,
And,
not the actor, like the character.
No. I wanted to be the imaginary detectives or
I see.
spies or whatever. And then in my early teens, I began to realize that was not practical. And it's sad that it took me until my early teens to really understand that. But actually, I read an article written by Ian Fleming, who wrote James Bond, and he wrote an article about how he wrote James Bond. And it sort of clicked for me. Oh, I can't be James Bond, but I could write James Bond. And so I just switched right over to writer.
Nice.
I guess when I was around 11 or 12.
If I can ask, I don't mean to be personal or rude at all, but you said you were very scared as a kid.
Yeah.
So because you were scared, you dove into the fictional stuff.
Exactly.
Right? And I'm assuming you were very sheltered, like parents were like nervous about the neighborhood or something like that.
No, they were pushing me out the door. I was just
It was all you.
What were you scared of, if you don't mind me asking?
No, it's just biological. It's just like a high level of anxiety.
Okay.
And I've gotten better with it. And not to say it's gone away. I mean, like if you've got that biology, you've got it. But I know how to handle it. I learned how to handle it over the decades, but it did take decades. But when I was a little kid, I would go to school and then I would come home as soon as I could, and I would, that was safe space, place to watch TV and read books. But it was just a general, there's a lot going on. There's God knows what could happen to you out there.
Do you think it translated into, like, I know you said you manage it now, but did it carry over into your work life?
I think it carried over into my work life in the sense that it made me more or less addicted to my work life. Like my creative work was the most comforting thing I could find. And so it drove me to just feel like like I don't know how I would live without being in some way both consuming and creating stories and art and whatever. Um, and so I think that that's the main way. And probably I tend to have, somewhat timid or emotionally fragile heroes probably. But it's a lot of times you write what you are not. A lot of times you make up stuff to sort of play out what it would be like without actually having to do anything.
Absolutely. So, college, what job did you want to get with that degree?
Actually, I really just wanted to be I wanted to be a best-selling writer. That was my job title that I wanted. And when I was in high school, I was doing okay. I was writing plays and I felt really good. And I thought I didn't really have any desire to go to college. Um, but I got in, and that was very cool and impressive. And I was like, I should go. But after the first year, all the way through, I was like, I don't want to be studying this old literature. I want to be a writer. So in my second year, I dropped out. I was just like, just let me just write. If I can just write, I will write good stuff. And I just had the worst writer's block you can imagine. Like I moved back in with my parents. I lived in the basement of their place, and I tried to write, and it was like a year every day trying to write and not just panicking, just thinking, oh, I need to do something else instead. I need to read this book or watch this movie or research this or take a walk or whatever. So eventually I went back to college because I was like, if I'm not going to be writing, I'd better have someplace to go that no one will bug me about getting a job. And so I went back to college, and then by the time I got out of college, I had done a bunch of theater there and a bunch of writing, and it was all just I wanna be a writer and a filmmaker. Um, and at the time, it was the early 1980s, and spec screenplays, original screenplays were a hot commodity. Screenwriters were actually kind of glamorous starting in then, because in the earlier parts of Hollywood, screenwriters were kind of hacks. If somebody was a good writer in the real world, in literature or theater, going to Hollywood, writing movies was awful. It was embarrassing, but they did it for the money. And so when I got out, they were just starting to have these huge spec scale sales, especially for action films. And everyone was saying like, "Oh, you write an original action film, you write an original movie. That's the way to get it to be a movie maker." And so that's, of the thing, could I do theater? Could I do fiction? I chose screenplays because it seemed like the biggest money and the most glamour. Um, that turned out to be misleading, but at the time, that's what it seemed.
When you first left college to write, what were you writing? It was a novel, or was it a screenplay?
I was working on. Was trying to do a novel, and then I decided to be a screenwriter. I turned it into a screenplay. And I was just I was learning screenwriting as I went along. There weren't any screenwriting books really at the time. Sid Field's book came out about a year or two into my trying to learn how to do screenwriting, but before that, there really wasn't anything. Um, and that's called Screenplay by Sid Field. It's actually a really good book.
I have it.
But that was all there was.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to learn by doing, which I frankly recommend. I mean, it's easier now, but you should don't wait to know how to do something before you start doing it. Just start doing it in a nice, quiet, safe way, and that's how I learned.
I love that. You never quit. You kept going. So let's talk about the second time you go to college. You graduate the second time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then what comes next? You find a job, or you just go
I
straight
found
to
a job.
screenwriting?
I was living in New York, and I found a job. It everything was easier then, I have to say. Things are hard now for people trying to break into things. I got a job in publishing because I thought that would be close to writing. And so I got a job. It turned out to be in the marketing department of paperbacks at Simon and Schuster in Midtown New York. Um, and I quickly learned that it had nothing to do with writing or at all. But I was just trying to write like in my off hours. Like if nothing was happening at my desk, I would just try writing. And so after 6 months, they did the 6 month review of my new job, and they said, "You're not really trying very hard. We really like you, but you clearly don't care about this job, and we need you to care about the job." And I realized I couldn't do it. So I had noticed working in all these offices that the receptionist at every office had nothing to do all day. Like if they weren't answering the phones or whatever, they could read, they could write. So I said, I need to be a receptionist. So with my beautiful Yale honors diploma, I started applying to be a receptionist, which definitely made everyone who knew me very nervous. Um, and I became a receptionist. I was a receptionist for about a year at a clothing company, and I worked on novels and screenplays and stuff at my desk because no one was bugging me. Um, and then after that, I was an office temp for much of the next 10 years.
That was like security jobs we used to do during college. Because doing security almost all day, you don't have to do anything. I did all my homework and then did the rounds, every few hours.
So what
Yeah,
comes
that's
after the?
it was. I just kept saying I want a job where the expectations are really, really, really low.
So he was like Albert Einstein, right? So he took a job working where he can think
Yeah.
while he's working.
I like
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
So after the year of reception work, what comes next?
Just 10 years of I got an agent with my first script.
Nice.
And I started writing more scripts and just working office jobs and temping and trying to learn how. During the course of all that, um, high eight video started to come out. Camcorders came out, um, but then they got better quality. They got high eight, which was an old video format. I don't know, you might remember it, but most people won't. But the thing about high eight video was that they sold an edit controller, which they had never had for VHS, at least not like that an ordinary person could buy. Um, and so I started to try and make movies with high eight video. Um, and so like I would think, what can I do that I can use this office I'm working at as a location after hours? Um, and I did a couple of movies on video, knowing that they could never be shown anywhere. There was no distribution for video at the time, but I thought about theater, and I thought about how in theater, like you do workshops. Like if you have a play, you put it on for a little group of people and you test it out. And I thought it's really crazy that there's no filmmaking version. Like if you get a film job, you have to be expert already, but you have to be expert without ever having done it. And so I thought I need to make some little movies, DIY, indie, with whatever I had, borrowing locations and getting actors who would work for free. Um, and so I just spent a couple years making movies on video that I could never show anybody, but I would do a cast and crew screening. But I did a couple of features.
That's nice. That's wild to know that this can't go anywhere.
Yeah, it's kind of liberating.
Yeah, no judgment, right? You're
I
doing what you
actually
enjoy.
recommend. Yeah, I recommend that if people are starting out, the first thing you do is give up on getting anywhere with it. Like do it because you want to do it. Do it because it's the best thing you can do, and you want to know that if a handful of people see it, they will like it. Because right now, if you want to do that, you can do it. Like the technology now is amazing. The things that you can do now, if I had been able to do them when I was in my 20s, would have blown my mind. The idea of being able to color correct, and you can do sound mixing just at home. None of that was possible.
Imagine you had an iPhone
My feeling
back
is
then.
now. I'm sorry.
Imagine you had an iPhone back then.
my life would have changed. I would have never stopped making movies. Like I would have just
Probably
made
would have never went to
movies.
Yale.
No, no, absolutely never. So yeah, my feeling is do the stuff, and even if the thing you want is to know that even if a couple of people see it, if you're getting a reaction from them that's what you wanted, that's success. And hopefully that will introduce you to other people or stuff. But if not, slowly but surely you'll build up your skills, you'll build up your vision, and you'll also build up your reputation. Like if anyone ever wants, suppose you make 10 little movies by yourself and it takes you 10 years. At the end of that 10 years, if you finally meet an agent or a producer or something and they say, well, why should I pay attention to you? You say, here's 10 movies, check them out. If you like them, I'm your guy. And you need to be able to show that you can do it. And you also need to know for yourself that you can do it.
Absolutely. Do you consider yourself a writer that's like textbook, or you're more like freestyle?
I'm more freestyle. I'm weirdly, because I wrote a textbook, but my textbook says be freestyle.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
like Bruce Lee.
I think that
this
I
guy.
think it's good to know the textbooks. I think it's good to know the rules, but then you have to decide if they fit you and your circumstances and your style and who you are. So that's I believe that you have to figure out who you are and what you do well, and maybe that will be commercially successful or maybe that won't. But there's no point in trying not to be who you are. It generally doesn't go well when you fake it.
That makes sense. If you know the rules, you can bend them the correct way.
Yeah, exactly.
You need those guardrails. That makes sense.
Yeah, and you're a very good example of what I'm talking about. You're making your own work. You're putting it out there. You've built this amazing, set of reviews and podcasts and all these things that are. You just said I'm doing it, and you did it. That's the best use of the technology at the moment, until the technology kills us all, which it surely will. But until then, we might as well enjoy it.
Absolutely. When it comes to like a well-written movie, do you have like a number one?
I have like a number 100, but among the 100, actually like even more than 100, but a bunch of them are old, like The Apartment by Billy Wilder, The Godfather. Those are, truly great scripts. But then there's a lot of, like every year stuff comes out and my jaw drops at how good it is. I'm a big enthusiast. I like a lot of stuff. And so like I just saw Marty Supreme. It's great. I just saw Hamnet. It's great. And that's not the writing in that case. Hamnet is not, honestly, you probably don't even have to understand what they're saying to feel how powerful that film is. So yeah, I'm a fan. I like to be a fan. I like to, whatever somebody's doing, I say like, are they giving me something in that, even if it's not my usual thing?
I love it. What comes next?
For me?
Yeah, like in the timeline where we are after college, after reception work.
You got the agent.
Yeah, you got the agent.
I got the agent, and I wrote more scripts, and I got a lot of people interested, and they would say, "Wow, you're a really good writer. We're not going to make this." I'd be like, thanks. And so after 10 years of that, I was kind of scared. I was kind of like, I'm doing the best I can, and people are saying I'm good, but nobody's paying me. And I was kind of I was thinking of getting a real day job, like trying to become a teacher, actually, was what I was looking into, because I figured at least I would get summers off. And then a producer who I had worked with, who had taken one of my original scripts, they got a job at Tribeca Films, which is De Niro's company with Jane Rosenthal, and they had just opened up their offices back then. And this producer I knew got a job at Tribeca. And in order to take that job, she had to agree not to be an independent producer anymore. So she gave up on she said, I can't do your film. But then she was working at Tribeca, and Billy Crystal got in touch with Tribeca because he really wanted to work with De Niro. And this producer, her name was Mae Wathridge, and she just said, wow, Billy Crystal and De Niro would be really good in Glenn's script, which Tribeca had no idea existed. And so she sent my script through Tribeca to Billy Crystal. And he read it and he loved it. And he said, this would be great. So he wanted to meet with me to talk about rewrites. So he came to New York. And remember, Tribeca had no idea that I existed or this script existed. And now all of a sudden, Billy Crystal wanted to do this script, which they had never even heard of. And so we had a meeting, and I agreed to do the rewrites, and Tribeca then optioned my script in order to keep the stars happy. And so I got in. The same script had been knocking around for 10 years. And people had liked it, but it was sort of offbeat. And then all of a sudden, because one person happened to like it, I was now an industry writer. I got a big option. I got a rewrite fee, and I got into the union. Like everything that hadn't happened for 12 years before then suddenly came together, and I was working.
That's amazing.
Was that script ever made into a film?
No, actually, it's really interesting because that script, I had written it, I just wrote whatever I thought was cool, whatever was funny and cool. And so it had it didn't really work. But over the 10 years, it had been shown around a lot to a lot of writers and directors and producers, and they had all given me notes. And whenever somebody gave me a really good note, I would rewrite it. So over the course of 10 years, it had gotten a lot better. But still, I didn't actually understand anything about the business of being a screenwriter. I felt like I understood the art, but the business is very, very different, because in the business, like if somebody buys your script, they then assume that they're going to rewrite it, to have it rewritten to their taste. And I was like, well, no, I got it right. There's no point in rewriting it. And I literally didn't understand how much of the job was changing things as different players come into the game. And so if a star or a producer or a studio comes in, they want it to be steered in a different direction. I was completely incapable of doing that. I didn't understand that it was even part of the job. So Billy Crystal, who was incredibly nice to me, everyone involved was really nice to me, but he said, I want to make these changes, and I didn't know how to do it at all. So I was like, that sounds like a perfectly fine other movie, but it's not the thing I wrote. So I didn't know how. I was really, I almost had a breakdown trying to do this rewrite because I didn't understand how to do it. And eventually I just wrote a whole new script.
Based on his notes.
Yeah. And that didn't go, they fired me then.
Wow.
Because that happens a lot. Basically, if you try and do something to suit somebody and it doesn't work, they just fire you and get somebody else. And none of this was stuff I understood about the business. So they fired me, but they had paid me a lot of money. They had paid me enough money to live for a full year.
Wow.
Between the option and the rewrite. And so I took that year and I wrote a new script, and that one got to Jodie Foster's company. And so with that, I decided I had a job in LA rewriting this script. A friend of mine was working on a television show in LA and hired me to do one episode. And so I moved to LA.
So that agent
been here ever since.
That agent that you had when you first wrote the spec script, was the same agent you kept for 10 days?
Yes.
10 years?
She had been in New York, and we were both sort of starting out together. She was young, and it was her first job at an agency, and I was one of her first clients. And after a while, she moved to LA. She opened a branch of the agency in LA, so she was there ahead of me. And she's the one who got my scripts to Jodie Foster and stuff. And so by the time I was ready to move to LA, she had sort of got us set up there, and she was doing very well. And I moved to LA, and I said, I'm gonna see if I have a year. I had enough money to live for a year in LA, and I said, let's see. My wife had to quit her job, and we moved to LA, and we said, let's see what happens at the end of a year. If we can keep going, we'll keep going. If not, we're young. It was an interesting experience. But I kept working. I kept getting jobs and trying to learn as I went. And that went for 25 years.
Wow.
That's amazing. What year was this when you moved to LA?
1996.
And how was LA in 96?
Well, we moved to Venice.
Oh,
I gotta
nice.
say, my wife hated LA when we first came to LA. We were both New Yorkers. She was from the Bronx, and I was from Manhattan, and we went to LA, and she's like, "This is awful." But in Venice, it was kind of cool. It was small. It was more walkable. It was funkier, and so she said we could live here. So it was at the time still fairly sketchy. It was sort of gang territory. There's like a lot of movies made in the '90s about LA gang life. It was on the edge of that. It wasn't as bad as it could be, but it like the when we first moved to LA, about a week in, we heard automatic weapons fire in the middle of the night. And somebody had robbed a bank next down the block. They had robbed an armored car that was picking up from the cash machine, actually, because it was like 2 a.m. And we were like, "Is that what I think it is?" So that was LA for us at the time. But honestly, we had come from the East Village. The East Village in the '80s was crazy. So Venice seemed kind of nice compared to the East Village. It certainly didn't scare us.
We're from Yonkers.
Yeah. So
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, it's a
Wow.
move from New York
so LA,
to a beach. There's Venice Beach there.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Automatically, it's like a nicer place, even visually.
yeah. No, it was sort of like if you took the East Village and Coney Island and put them on an LA beach. That's what Venice was like at the time, which was cool. It was great. That was like we were very at home with that. That made sense.
Nice. So what was the transition like to the movie industry over there? You went to Hollywood, or what was your first steps when you got there?
Well, luckily I had a movie job and a TV job. So
Nice.
I was set for a while. I had work to do and I had money to live on. And I had an agent who was well established and doing really well. And so she just started setting me up with meetings, and it was a pretty nonstop. It was a really hot time for screenwriters because at that point the studios were what it's called developing. They were developing 50 scripts to make one movie. In other words, they would start 50 projects, and they would get scripts written for all of them, and then they would say, "Oh, this one's not working. Let's not do that." And so 50 screenwriters were hired, but those movies didn't get made. And when I first heard about that, when I was in New York and I went out to LA to visit my agent, and people said, "You could work here. You'll never get anything made, but it's a great job." And I was like offended. I was like, "Well, I don't want to write things that nobody makes," but that was the job. That's the business. Most of the things I wrote didn't get made, but they paid the rent and they got me introduced to new people, and they were interesting challenges. And nobody judged you for not having something made. If you got something made, it's amazing. That was like the crown. But everybody got fired. Everybody got, like I was getting a lot of rewrite jobs, which means somebody had to get fired for me to get that job. And so when I got fired, someone else would get the job.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of what I did for 20 years, of just like doing assignments, rewrites, adapting things. But there were always people who wanted to hire me because I knew how to write.
Any success stories? It sounds like a lot of uncertainty.
Well, weirdly, that was a success story.
Well, sticking to
You
it
know, because
after all the
I wasn't
failure.
office temping. I was living in. I was making money and making money for writing. It wasn't writing what I thought was good, or wasn't writing what I would have done, but it was writing professionally, and it was writing at a very high level with high level people. And then eventually, one of them did. It took about 6 years, but a rewrite job that I started. I was the third writer on it, and it was called Fracture. And I worked on that. They brought me this script, and they said, we really like this script. It was a legal thriller, and they said, if you we just need you to fix the ending. The ending isn't working. And I read it, and I thought the whole thing needed fixing. So I rewrote the whole script, and they said, wow, that's really great, except the ending. and And so we
That's
then
funny.
spent a full year with me trying to come up with new endings, and then just nothing pleased them. So after a year, I had come up with every ending I could think of, and I just quit, which was rare. But I was just like, instead of firing me, let me just quit now because I have run out of endings. And so then they showed it to three other writers in sequence, all of whom were really great writers who I really respected. One of them came up with an ending that worked for the company. And then the company came back to me and they said, we really like this guy's idea for an ending, but we like your writing. So can you rewrite his ending to fit it with your script? And I did that. And that got us a director, and that got us actors, and they made the movie
That's
Is that
amazing.
with Anthony Hopkins and Ryan Gosling. And it was a really amazing experience.
Do you think that's your biggest film?
That is by far my biggest.
Nice.
And it was a really wild experience because we were rewriting it all the way through the shoot. So I was on
Wow.
set every single day, and things were changing, and I would have to sit there with my laptop and write a new scene for tomorrow. And that's what I did for the entire shoot. But it was
Wow.
really nice because the director, he kept me close. He taught me a lot about directing and filmmaking and the business.
Nice. When I looked up your biggest achievements, Fracture and Mad Money came up.
Yeah, those are the two studio films that got made. Um, and both of those were essentially jobs. Somebody came with a project already, and they hired me to do the writing. And I, in both cases, spent years writing and reading, rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. Um, and then something other than the script would come together. Like everyone liked the scripts, but until the rest of the package came together, until the actors and the director and all the money all came together, things didn't get made, even if they liked them. Um, but those two, they did, and they were both really good experiences. Um, it was like that was the high point of that part of the industry when they were developing so much, and then there was a big strike in 2008 and a financial crisis, and work sort of changed. It became they developed a lot less scripts, and a lot of writers lost their jobs. I hung in there for a while, but that was sort of the end of an era.
Nice. When you're writing day by day on set, are you paid by day or they give you like one lump sum as the writer?
That's a great question. I'm trying to remember. I think I was given. I mean, I suspect that I had a rewrite fee, but then also a per diem. But the per diem wasn't like a writing fee. It wasn't a big. It wasn't big like a writing fee. But the writing fee up front was enough to carry me through it.
Nice. Was it before or after Fracture when you started teaching?
After it was a couple years after, like I said, after the strike and the financial crisis, I had been working a lot, so I had jobs that I had started before the strike, and then they got put on hold, and they kept me going for a few years. So I started teaching around 2012, I think, and I met someone who was working teaching screenwriting at UCLA Extension, which is sort of the after hours general education, night school of UCLA. And they always need a lot of teachers. So they hired me to teach there, and I taught for 2 semesters. But then I got more writing work, and I couldn't do both. So I stopped teaching for a while. And then right when the pandemic was starting, it was about time for me to retire. And so I started teaching on YouTube.
Nice. And how has your YouTube journey been?
It was really cool. It was interesting. Um, I felt like everybody writes screenwriting books, and I had made a movie for Blumhouse, which was a sort of Fatal Attraction, but about a YouTuber and their fan. And so I had spent a lot of time watching YouTube and thinking about YouTube. Um, and I thought, this would be a really good way to teach. And everybody else is doing screenwriting books, and there's too many screenwriting books, and I don't want to do a screenwriting book. So I thought, well, I'll just do classes, like little classes online, and that the reach is so huge. I mean, there's people all over the world who can watch these things. So I put a few years into that, and it started very small. For a year, I only had 36 subscribers. But then I went on Film Courage. It's a YouTube channel that interviews filmmakers, and one of my interviews at Film Courage just blew up. Nobody knows why, but it got 4 million views, four and a half now. Um,
Wow.
and neither Film Courage people nor I can explain why that happened. It just, for some reason, the algorithm.
I was about to say, it's the algorithm. We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But that brought a whole lot of people to my channel.
Nice.
But what was that one about? Was that about the 6 questions?
Yeah. It was the sixth question. It was funny. They gave it a title, because what they do is they interview you for like 2 hours, and then they cut it up into little 10-minute segments, and they put those out as individual videos. And so this particular segment, they titled, if you can't answer these 6 questions, you don't have a story. And I don't actually believe that. I believe you can perfectly well have a story without those 6 questions. But that, for something about that title, just triggered the algorithm. And so,
It's
yeah,
searchable.
so that became, yeah.
Hey, I can picture anybody typing in, "How am I writing a story?" and then something like that popping up. What?
Yeah, exactly.
After a
So,
writer has those 6 questions, what would be the next step? A beat sheet?
yeah, I'm a big outliner. Oh, but I know and I respect that some people, they just go they go moment to moment. They don't need an outline. I don't know how to do that. That, like I said, with the amount of anxiety that I have in my system, I would just panic at every choice. So having an outline, spending some time just thinking out the basic shape and characters and stuff, so that I know where I'm going and I know what every scene is about, that really helps me. But my way of teaching is always to say, if what you're doing is productive and you're feeling happy and healthy, do it. It doesn't matter if anybody else says you should do it. If you're getting your job done, if you're doing your work and you're feeling good about it, do it.
I
If
like
you're
that.
not, try different systems. Try an outline. Everybody's got some system. I don't, I think you just try and break it down to scenes. That's, for me, that's what an outline is. Beat sheet, outline, whatever you want to call it. But the idea of starting to think in terms of, this is going to have to turn into scenes, like a scene with a beginning, middle, and end. And that's how I do it. Um,
You mentioned a lot. I saw that you always say, "Think in a scene." So
right.
is that meaning like just in one small moment of time, one main character with one main objective with one problem? Is that what?
Basically, I
Yeah, the
mean,
idea.
the idea of to me, of a scene dramatically, I mean, the basic rules of a filmmaking scene are that it's going to take place in one location at one time. If you leave the location or if you jump in time, that's a new scene. Um, but that's just like the rules, the physics. But what's really important is in that time and in that place, somebody has to be doing something. And I'd really try and leave that broad because sometimes what they're doing, like I've used as an example, somebody could just be making a decision. And you know, that scene could just be they go and they sit by the river and they watch the water and then they, you know, break their coffee cup in half and throw it in the water and they've made the decision, and we don't know yet what that decision is until the next scene, but that action of that scene is making a decision. Or it could be, you know, robbing a bank, proposing to someone, you know, trying to get a laugh, whatever it is. Somebody in that scene will be trying to do something specific, and to me that's what a scene is. It's somebody trying to do something, and either they do it or they don't do it, and that leads to another thing they have to try.
Nice. Mike, how did you come across Mr. G?
YouTube. Yeah, YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I was
Michael and I go way back. I do live streams every week.
Nice.
And Michael reached out to me, but he's also, you know, been live with me.
yeah, I noticed. I was like, oh, this guy responds to people that comment,
Nice.
you know, and on his live, and very nice, very respectful,
Nice.
and you really give a lot of effort, and I appreciate that. You know,
Thank you.
You
Thank
obviously
you.
just doing it.
It's really
man.
rewarding.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, I appreciate it. I was telling a friend, I said, friend, this guy, I don't know him like that, but he sounds like a really nice guy, like extremely genuine.
Nice.
And even reading his book, The Writing for Screens, it's like I'm hearing him talk on YouTube, but like when I'm reading it, I'm hearing his voice, and I'm like, wow, it just comes off so natural and genuine. I appreciate that about the way you teach.
Thank you. That really means a lot because that was my big mission. I was like, how can I not be some pompous jerk reciting stuff that everybody's saying? How can I really talk about what this is like? Because it's scary. I mean, it's maybe that's just me because I'm naturally scared, but it's really scary to sit down and not know what you're going to say. And so I try to talk about that, about how what you're doing isn't about checking a list or fitting a rule. It's about trying to figure out what it is that you love so much when you watch a movie and what you're imagining and how you can use the craft, the form to do that.
Absolutely.
I was also taking a class with Jill Chamberlain, the great Jill Chamberlain, and I mentioned Glenn,
Nice.
and she was like, "Oh, I'm friends with Glenn. Tell him I said hello." I'm like, "Oh, no way."
Jill and I go way back when I lived in the East Village and I was making those little movies on video. Jill acted in one.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
I was going to ask you, how'd you meet? How'd
we
you
know
know
each
Jill?
other. It was about 35 years now, I think. She auditioned for a little video movie I was making,
Wow, that's how you guys met.
and that's how we met.
Wow, Jill's awesome. She's a brilliant teacher.
Nice.
She's great.
Yeah.
She's great. She actually really influenced me to start teaching. I was sort of winding down in my career, and I went to the Austin Screenwriting Conference, the Austin Film Festival. And she lives in Austin, teaches in Austin. And so we got together and I got to watch her classes and stuff. And she really encouraged me to try teaching.
Did you ever
She's
try?
great.
Yeah, she is. I learned a lot from. I consume so much information about screenwriting. It's insane. But
I can tell.
yeah, thanks. But from her, it made complete sense. Her nutshell technique. Did you ever use it?
By the time she came out with that, I was already writing professionally with the methods I had worked out for myself. So I read it and I liked it, but I would already have my own system, which only works, you know, like everybody's system works for themselves. And what I really like about hers is that you can really like it breaks things down And if that suits you, or even just pieces of it suit you, it's very, very practical.
Yeah, I see it like all these systems. It's like I go to Mexico, they're eating chicken, but this chicken has specific spices. And in America, they make chicken, but it's with these spices. It's still chicken, no matter what you're eating.
Right.
Right, but
Absolutely.
but I think her system with a beat sheet for me. I mean, I'm nobody, right? But in terms of writing, but for me, it makes so much sense the way you put everything together, and it's like glue. I see, like
Yeah.
for her, yeah, like her system.
Yeah.
I'm saying.
But you know, by the way, just remember, if you're writing something, then you're a writer. You know, whether or not like it was the same script and I was the same writer for 12 years while I was office temping. And
Yeah.
the only thing that changed was that somebody happened to see the script who had the power to include me in the game. But it's not like the script changed. It was the same. Just because people are or not professional has no bearing on whether or not you should judge them as talented or not. They could be very talented and just not have had that lucky combination of things happen.
It's art.
So you know you're working hard on the writing and you're having a good time, and if you're turning out stuff, you're a writer.
It's art. So it's like some people value some art more than others. Like a singer, two people can sing amazing, but one just has the star, you know, the backing record deal and, you know, the good promotion.
Absolutely. And even like among those, like if you think about your favorite singers, you're going to find somebody who can't stand them, right?
Absolutely.
So, you know, it's art.
Yeah.
It's art. It's a matter of taste. And even we change our taste as we go along.
Absolutely.
What would you say to sorry for
No, you're good.
What would you say to somebody that might have financial means to help create something he wrote? Because I don't know if you ever saw like those music shows where they gas a bunch of people that's really desperate to become something in music, and they take all this money and they put them on a show and they act like they're going to be the gatekeepers and they have the key, and then it's all just like a scam.
Yeah. I would say two things about that. One, there are a lot of scams. There are a lot of businesses that are essentially scams, even if they're legitimate companies that are saying like, we're going to give you a break. I would say be very careful about any creative business that's asking for your money. Unless they're giving you if they're giving you a class, they're saying like, you can sit in my class for an hour for this amount of money. That's fair.
Yeah.
If they're saying, give us a bunch of money and we'll introduce you to people, I'm iffy on that. I would say it's better to take that money and DIY, make something, write something. If you don't want to make your own films, see about trying to find other, like if you're a writer and you don't want to be a director, because that's a whole other job, there's going to be directors out there who don't want to be writers. And so get online, go to local film groups, go to local schools, try and slowly, and it takes time, it takes years, but you meet people and you collaborate with them. DIY, put your money into that. As I said when we started, you know, it would be better to spend 10 years making your own stuff and having it and being able to show it to people than trying to buy some kind of approval. You know, make it, and even if you can't show it to anybody, you will learn and grow and hopefully have some fun, and hopefully people will get a kick out of it.
Absolutely. You know?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up his book. There's a nice book. I purchased it a few months ago when it came out.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think October. If there was one lesson you would want somebody to take from that book, what would it be? Writing for Screens, by the way, is the name of the book.
Yeah, the name of the book is Writing for Screens. The name of my YouTube channel is Writing for Screens. The name of my Substack, everything is Writing for Screens.
Instagram. Yeah.
And I think the one thing I would say is actually the little like catchphrase I got is go write something. It's like, even if you don't study anything, even if you just say, I'm going to write whatever I feel like, that's the most important step. Doing it, writing creative writing in whatever way you can. That's the key. The way I always put it is do what you can as who you are with what you have right now. Don't wait. Don't ask for permission. Just do what you can with what you've got right now. Because right now in this world, you've got a lot. Even if you only have like when I was temping, sometimes I would only have, 15, 30 minutes a day to write, when on my lunch break or something. But if you keep doing that, it'll build. It'll mean something.
Yeah, I was procrastinating a rewrite or based off of notes from Joe Chamberlain. And then I came across the section early in your book, and I said, you know what? Screw this shit, man. Let me get up and start working on this. Yeah, straight right off his page, bro. I was like, you know what? I got to get up and let me do this.
That's good writing.
Well, then it worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what do you have coming up? Any projects you have coming up, or books?
I am finally. I wanted to be a novelist back before I started screenwriting, and I've always wanted to do that, but I haven't been able to because I was trying to make a living at screenwriting, and now I'm retired, and so I'm going to write that novel. I started a novel. I actually started it thinking it was going to be a screenplay right when we moved to LA in 1996. So it's been 30 years of trying to work on it. Anyway, I'm writing a novel. I'll be putting it out hopefully in a year.
Nice. I have down that it's a novel set in the 1930s and 40s in New York.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
It's a romantic triangle story.
Nice. I love it.
I got a writing question. Every hero or main character in a movie needs a tangible goal or not?
They need a goal we understand. I don't know that it needs to be tangible, although there's going to usually be some sign of it. In other words, in order to understand that the goal has been accomplished, there usually is some sign of that. But that tangible, and it could be just like, I really want to get my dad to smile at me. My dad's been on my case for 30 years. I've been working, trying to be a writer, and I just want my dad to nod and say, good work. Well, that's not that tangible. I mean, it's just a nod, right? It's just a smile, but that's the goal. And then the story's going to be about what makes that relationship click in that way.
Beautiful. I love that.
That's awesome. And you don't offer a class like to teach like a formal, more like non-YouTube
just the
class,
book now.
Okay.
My all of my teaching is still up there on YouTube. It's free. It's there 24/7. There's 50 little lessons that I put out there, and then there's lots of live streams, and the book. I started teaching because I had something to say, and I kind of feel like I said it. So I don't want to just keep going on about it. It seems repetitive. So I'm going to keep live streaming but my main teaching now is going to be sharing what I'm learning as I'm trying to learn how to write a novel.
Oh, nice.
Do you offer any like script notes or consultations or anything like that?
No. That takes a lot of you really have to work hard when you read somebody's scripts. Mm-hmm. So I did that for a couple of years, and I decided I really want to focus on my novel, and so I put out a book, and I was like, if you want to know what I think, it's in the book.
Yeah, he offered great advice. I heard somewhere, I'm sure it was on YouTube, where you said if you know anybody successful in that industry, don't say, hey, read my stuff. Say something like, hey, I have this cool script I've been working on, I'm really passionate about. What do you think I should do with it? And that person might say, hey, let me see it. I'll take a look at it. Or I know somebody. That was great advice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, you can't force people to like it. You can't force people to even read it. You just put it out there and be positive about it and keep working. And I think people like when they see somebody who's like, I'm doing this stuff. If you want to check it out, check it out. If you don't, I respect that. That tends to make people, I think, say, this person, they're they're on their own track. That's kind of worth finding out about.
I love it.
Yeah, awesome. Tonight, I'm gonna make a hookah and watch one of your movies, Inner Demon, because I'm a horror junkie. So
Nice.
That was
yeah,
an interesting job. Yeah.
you wrote that.
Thank
You
you.
created the from concept to, or was that another rewrite job?
That was a job where I was going to write and direct it. And so I wrote, but it was going to be improvised. It was going to be like
Interesting.
found footage, and so they wanted to just do it like improv based. So I wrote the plan for the improv, but then they suddenly needed me to direct it. And actually, I was working at UCLA, and I couldn't take the job. I was like, I got this other job. So they got another director. So he took my beat sheet and my characters and my little bits of script, and he filmed it. So,
Oh, nice.
and he changed the ending.
Oh, was that your
It
weakness
happens.
in your career, the endings?
It happens. Yeah,
But-
it happens.
But in real life, you're having a good ending, I hope.
So far so good. Thank you.
Good. God bless you.
Let's see how it goes, but so far so good.
Glenn, thank you very much for your time. It's been a great conversation.
This has been fantastic. I really appreciate you having me on. Your show's great.
Thank you.
You.
My pleasure. Thank you, Mike, for setting this up.
Oh, thank you, friend, for hosting and doing all
course.
the heavy lifting and letting me ride your coattails once again.
Absolutely.
Glenn, God bless you. Thank you so much. And I hope a wonderful
you.
new year for you. And next year, we'll speak to you about the novel, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love that. You too. Have a great year. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Be creative.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thank
Will do.
everybody that watched. Peace and love.